It's great to see the Irish Film Festival is about to happen, in fact, from October 17th to November 24th nationally. And as always, it's a pleasure to speak to the festival director of the Irish Film Festival, Enda Murray. Enda, welcome to Movie Metropolis again.
Thanks a million, Peter. It's great to be here.
Always a great festival. And what challenges do you face, or did you face this year in finding appropriate Irish films for this year's festival in Australia?
Oh, look, I started out with a shortlist of about 40 films, believe it or not. So, an abundance of riches. Yeah, we're pretty lucky, I think, at the moment. The Irish film industry is going really well. A lot of government support, and so for a country that's pretty much the same population as New South Wales, there were more than 40 features. So it was a process then of contacting the producers. Some of the smaller films were talking directly to the producers. The bigger films were talking to distributors and seeing, is it possible to screen them in Australia? Some of the films, are committed to streaming, or they're committed to festivals, which need to be an Australian premiere, so they can't come to us. And then the final leg of the journey is the haggling, over the screening fees, and obviously we've got a limited budget, so some of the films unfortunately were out of our reach financially. But look, I think it's a pretty strong body of films that we've got. Again, we've got one world premiere, we've got 12 Australian premieres out of the total of 16 films. So a lot of new content from Ireland.
That's excellent to hear, and I fully understand the issues of getting the films and the financing and all that sort of thing. It's never an easy process. What is the world premiere that you're screening?
Shameless self-promotion here. We've made a short documentary, the team at the Irish Film Festival, and I'm the director, and it's a short documentary about people in Sydney who play Irish music but who are not in fact Irish. So what we're actually looking at Australian culture through a prism of what I call cultural experts. So cultural experts are these people who can play traditional music. It's all in the head, it's not written down, but these people have crossed over a cultural boundary. And so there's a guy from Sri Lanka, there's a Portuguese guy, a Swedish guy, a Chinese Australian guy, and we've got a token Irish man. And so we listen to them play, and then we talk to them about how they got involved in Irish music, and then their experience of crossing cultures, and in a way, and that gives us a chance to kind of stand back a bit and talk about crossing cultures into Australia, because these people are migrants. So again, it's a topic that is close to my heart, is exploring the migrant experience.
Yes, and that film is Continental Celli, I think, is it?
That's called a Continental Ceilidh. So
Ceilidh
is a big dance, yes.
Yes.
And it's actually a play on a song by a very famous Irish singer called Christy Moore. He wrote a song called the Continental Ceilidh, because years ago lots of people were coming from Europe to Ireland to play Irish music. So Christy Moore writes lots of funny songs. So it's a bit of an in joke. But yeah, that's the name, a Continental Ceilidh, and that'll play in all of the cities and online.
Okay, you've had other films in previous festivals, so that's great. It's good that you can play films that you've made in the Irish Film Festival. Now, let's talk about the opening night film, which sounds so intriguing, That They May Face The Rising Sun.
Yeah. So the film that they may face, The Rising Sun, is an adaptation of a John McGahern novel. John McGahern was a writer who started in the early 60s and would be well known for his transgressive books. And unfortunately, he ran the gauntlet of the Irish Catholic Church, and he was sacked from his position as a school teacher because he got married to a Norwegian divorcee. So at the time, number one, you couldn't remarry without the permission of the church in Ireland. The Catholic Church was very, very strong, and I think the fact that this woman was a divorcee was a no-no, and he was actually sacked by the boss man in the church in Ireland, Archbishop McQuaid. Not a very nice man. And poor old John McGahern ended up working on the building sites in London in the 60s. So some of his earlier works were very bitter, but this is actually an adaptation of a later book of his when I think he had become a lot more mellow, and so it's a beautiful it's a kind of a year in the life of a small community in Ireland in the in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s, and it's directed by a guy called Pat Collins. Now, we have had a couple of Pat Collins films in the festival in the past. He's an auteur. He made a film called Song of Granite a couple of years ago, which went down very well. But Pat Collins is very interested with the Irish condition, and so this is, very much about exploring the life in rural Ireland, the good parts and the bad parts, and it's just such a beautifully made film. They went back to Leitrim to where John McGahern had set the book, but in their search for cottages that had not been modernized, they ended up going to a couple of different places. They went to Galway and Mayo to shoot the film. The film stars Barry Ward, who is just a great character actor. Has come through on a couple of films recently. Woman Anna Bedurke, who is European or French, I believe, and then a couple of just legends of Irish screen. These guys, Layla Roddy, Pat McGinley, people who Irish, certainly Irish audiences will recognise. So it's a gentle film. It's a film where, like some of the French films where not much happens, but it is a beautiful film, and it's one, anywhere it's went, it's gone. It has been applauded. One of a few pundits, and is just a great opening night film.
Look forward to seeing it. I noticed you've got a documentary featuring Brendan Gleeson.
Yes. So Brendan Gleeson, some people will know Brendan from the last film, Banshees of Inisherin, where he was a fiddle player who, as the film went on, lost his fingers. Brendan Gleeson is actually a very good fiddle player, and I've known of this for a while because I'm involved in music myself. So I heard through the grapevine that he was making this film, and I got in touch with the filmmakers, and I said I'd love to talk to Brendan, and they said, well, we can certainly arrange that, but Brendan, he doesn't want to talk about Hollywood. He wants to talk about this film, and he wants to do the interview with the young director, who is also a fiddle player. It's really steeped in music, so I got to chat to Brendan Gleeson, and we've got a Q&A which we will screen with the film. He very funny guy and very gracious, and I gave him a few acting tips. I've got to say he took them very graciously, but no, he was just in very good form. So the film is about a pub in Dublin, which was very well known for traditional music sessions, where it's called a come all ye session, where people just turn up on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night or wherever, and sit down, and whoever turns up plays, and sit in a circle and just play music. And it's traditional music, jigs and reels, and I think what Brendan is talking about is this zen of playing music with people, and the social milieu that enabled that to happen, which was the pub. And so it covers a couple of different things, where the music, it covers the pub, where the pub sits in the Irish social scene, but there's also this feeling about the kind of life, and life goes on, and people had their time. The pub is closing, and it's a very fond remembrance of the times that were there. So that's Brendan Gleeson, Farewell to Hughes's. So it's that's on the it's playing on the Friday night in Melbourne.
Okay. Sounds good. And speaking of documentaries, there's one I noticed called Stolen, which reminds me of Philomena, the film with
Yes.
Judi Dench.
Yes, well spotted. So that Philomena was probably the first time that this issue was brought to the public view, and unfortunately, it has not gone away. And Stolen looks at a event that happened in 2014, when a mother's and what are called mother and baby homes. There was a mass grave discovered there with a lot of skeletons of babies, and it was located in the grounds of the mother and baby home. So to give a bit of context, the mother and baby home is where the Catholic Church brought fallen women, or women who had become pregnant without being married. And they brought them to these homes, and they in many cases, the women had the babies, but the babies were taken away from them. And there are lots then of different things that happened. Some of the babies died. There was a very high death rate within the mothers and babies' homes. Most of the babies were given to families who for adoption, but some of the babies were sent overseas, and this is well documented that some of the babies went overseas, mostly to America, and money changed hands. And so yes, the process was very questionable. The young women were not well looked after. They were punished for the sin of having a baby out of wedlock, and so Stolen is a film by Margot Harkin, who is one of the early, I would say, feminist filmmakers in Ireland. She made a film in 1990 which featured Sinead O'Connor, which was Hushabye Baby, which was about actually it was again about the issue of teenage pregnancy. But Margot Harkin has been making films, for 35 years and is a very well respected filmmaker in Ireland. So I was delighted to have a chat with her in the Q&A, and yeah, I think that's I suppose, it's about bringing stories, contemporary stories from Ireland to Australia, and to ground people, because we at the Irish Film Festival, we haven't shied away from the tough stories. Doesn't always get us good. It doesn't always go down well with the sponsors, who want kind of a very pretty view of Ireland put out. But yeah, that's what we do. We bring contemporary stories to Australia.
Excellent. I'm glad you do that, because a film festival is a great place to see these sorts of films. A film which I think I've seen, actually, starring Gabriel Byrne, called Dance, which is all about Samuel Beckett.
Yeah, so Dance First is a film about Beckett. I didn't realize he was such a complicated character. He went to Paris, and he chased up James Joyce, who is very well played by Aidan Gillen. But Gabriel Byrne plays Beckett. There's a great appearance by Brona Gallagher from Derry, who is a very legendary Irish actor. She plays Joyce's wife in Paris, and it documents his life and his relationships. He had two major relationships with women in his life, but also things like time spent with resistance in France, where he was active in the French resistance. He was also, I didn't realize, he was assaulted in Paris and stabbed quite badly. So that was another incident. But look, I love watching Gabriel Byrne. He really carries the complexities of Beckett in this film. So it's a real joy to watch. When you get just a great ensemble of actors, and with high production values, it's just a joy.
Yes, excellent stuff. Now, I noticed a film called Lie of the Land.
Yeah, so Lie of the Land is it's a first feature by a guy called John Carlin, and it's shot outside Belfast. So it's a psychological thriller, and it's shot on the in a little farm, a little farm in the countryside, the rolling hills north of Belfast, and it's a story about an aging couple who are scammed by a man with no conscience, but it comes down to a kind of a stalker type of situation, where they are chasing each other around the farmhouse, and I won't tell you the ending, but it's a good yarn, and the great performances, and yeah, a nice film.
Very good. Again, nice to see diversity of themes and genres in the festival. I notice you've got a TV series, I think, called The Guards.
Yeah, so we've got two focus. We've got a double focus this year. One is music with the Brendan Gleeson and my own film, and we've got a horror film which revolves around folk music collectors. We've also got O'Vale, which means verbal, or by the mouth, which looks at some new up and coming Irish singers, electronic music people, kind of young guys who rap in Gaelic, which kind of following on from the kneecap phenomenon. But the other focus is on women's rights. And so we mentioned Stolen early on. The Guards is a film about the Irish Garda Síochána, the Guards, as they're known in Ireland. And it tracks the first conviction in Ireland for coercive control. And we thought this was very timely because in New South Wales, coercive control has just been elevated to status of a crime, but there hasn't been a conviction yet. So it actually has to go through the courts. The director, Shauna Stanley, spent 3 years with the Guards, the police in Ireland, making this series, and this is an episode which is about coercive control. And Shauna is will be in Australia, and I'm hoping to bring her down to Melbourne to talk in person about this film. And then the final film in that kind of trilogy is a film called Verdigris, which is a drama about a middle-aged woman who is under the thumb. Well, under the thumb is not. She is being dominated by her husband. She makes a friend in her work who is from a completely different social milieu, a young sex worker in Dublin, and the two of them form an unlikely friendship, and a very unique script. Won the prize at Galway Film Festival last year. Just a very fresh, a very new and fresh film, and again some great performances.
Excellent stuff. I noticed I think you've got an animation. Is it called A Greyhound of a Girl?
Excuse me. Yes. And this is a film that I think was 13 years in the making. It's a Roddy Doyle story. So some of your viewers might be familiar with Roddy Doyle, I suppose, best known for The Commitments, the writer who wrote the original book, but bit of a legend in Ireland. And it's a story of 4 generations of women. It's got Brendan Gleeson again as one of the voices. It's got Sharon Horgan from Bad Sisters, who is probably one of the hottest properties in Ireland at the moment, in terms of her creativity and her acting skills, and also a legend of Irish comedy, Rosaleen Linehan. So it's a storyline where women from 4 generations get together and go on a bit of a road trip. One of the women is in fact a spirit from the other world. So she could be a banshee, she could be another figure from Irish mythology, Kathleen Ní Houlihan, but she's a benevolent spirit, and it's a delightful film. It's just got some real quality animation and performances, and a wonderful soundtrack by which features Gemma Hayes, who is a very talented young Irish singer. So that's a beautiful family film.
Okay, excellent. Now, the Melbourne venue, I just wanted to check, is that the Nova Cinema this year?
That's correct. Yeah, we're back at Nova, and so we've got live music on the opening night on the 24th, and we've got those Q&As that I mentioned, which we'll play with the films, and yeah, so it's a kind of a weekend event, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and all the tickets are available at irishfilmfestival.com.au. So get along there and get a ticket and see you at the Irish Film Festival.
Absolutely, sounds great. Now, we've covered a fair number of films. Are there any other films in the festival, Enda, that you want to draw my audience's attention to?
Oh, I suppose, having chosen the films, I love them all. We had Colleen Kuhn, The Quiet Girl, a couple of years ago, and then Kneecap has just been ripping it up in the cinemas. Another Irish language film. So we've got a film called Tarach, which means pull, which is about a women's what are called currach boats, currach racing. So it's like a sea kayak, and these are very small boats, and it's shot in Dingle in County Kerry. Absolutely beautiful in location, and a story about a young woman coming back to where she grew up, and trying to look after her ailing father, who who is a very grumpy character. There's some nice performances there, and some nice writing in terms of the father-daughter. She falls back in with the team of boat racers, currach racers, and there's a competition which they enter into, which kind of forms the narrative arc. But again, in the Irish language with subtitles, of course. But yeah, there's just increasingly there's a lot of interest in Irish at the moment, right across the spectrum, but particularly with young people, which is fantastic. As a Irish speaker myself, I'm really delighted to see this resurgence, and it's just cool. It's cool to talk Irish. I don't know exactly, but it's partly because we can drop in a few words here, and then it becomes a patois that is our own. And we can have in jokes between us. I think there's that element. But it is a bit, I suppose, growing up, I learned French, and when I spoke French, I became a Frenchman. And I really think it's that when I get to talk Irish, I can feel like an Irishman. And that's and I think it's a good thing. Yeah, no, we've got a couple. Sunlight is another film which I think is worth a mention, which played Sydney Film Festival last year, and it's a kind of a buddy film with two older men, and the topic's pretty tough. It's one of the guys is wanting to control his exit from this life, and the other guy's very disappointed because he was the other guy was an addict. His mentor brought him from a bad place to a good place, and now his mentor wants to kick off the mortal coil. But it's well written. There's a fantastic scene where they're riding the Dublin ponies down through the streets of suburban Cabra with the Fontaines DC track in the background. Yeah, it's just a quality piece of filmmaking. I think there's just one more. The building and burning of a refugee camp is another short short film which looks at an issue that is global at the moment, which is refugees and how refugees are being demonized and subjected to the most horrific abuse. So I actually was keen to show this film because again it brings Ireland up to date. Ireland, which, you know, when I left Ireland 38 years ago, it was unheard of for anybody to emigrate to Ireland because Ireland was a basket case. But Ireland has had a huge social change. And Ireland is beset by the many of the same problems that other countries face, and I'm very proud of the fact that Ireland has never locked up asylum seekers in the same way that for example, Australia has put people into detention centres. But yes, the migrant issue is something that is current in Ireland. So that's that film, Building and Burning of a Refugee Camp. And then, yeah, we've just a couple of more music films. Music film, The Stunning, which is a band in Dublin. And then finally, It's a Fine Thing to Sing, which is a film from way up the north of the northernmost tip of Ireland, which is actually part of Southern Ireland, strangely enough. But that's up in Donegal, and again, it's about a community who sing, and one of the guys there is one of the people featured is a guy called Ian Lynch from a band called Lancome, who are probably the biggest traditional trad-based Irish band at the moment. So great to get Ian Lynch on screen there.
All good stuff. And I notice you've got online some short films as well.
Yeah, so they would be the short films, the Building and Burning of a Refugee Camp, my own film Continental Cayley, and so yeah, we've got six films in cinema only. We've got 7 more which are both in cinema and online. And then we've got 3 which are online only, and yeah, it's mostly due to the contractual obligations. We'd love to put them all online because we constantly get messages from people who are looking after family, or they're out in whoop whoop, or just geographically isolated, but they enjoy the weekend of actually the fortnight of Irish films.
Excellent stuff, Enda. And in fact, the Irish Film Festival has been in Australia since 2015, so it's terrific to see these Irish films. And we've been speaking to the festival director, Enda Murray, and just go to irishfilmfestival.com.au for more details. Enda, as always, great to talk to you, and all the best with the festival.
Thanks, Peter. It's a 10th birthday, so we're very happy that we've made it this far, and thanks for your support.
Pleasure. Look forward to it.
All the best.
All the
Cheerio.
best to you.
Bye bye.
All the best. Bye bye.
Bye bye.